come to the detectors. Now, detectors primarily capture the image. There are a group of small detectors which are arranged in arrays of 16 to 64 rows, as you can see in the picture on this side. There are approximately 1000 detectors in each capturing unit. So the X-rays come in attached to this. Now, if you take a single detector and look into it, there are basically 3 layers. The first layer is called as a scintillation layer. A second layer is called as photodiode. A diode consists of 2 electrodes. One is a cathode and the other one is an anode. And then there is a substrate which finally emits the electron. So what you have on one side is the X-ray comes and hits the detector plate, but when it comes out as electrical signals. So let's look into how does the CT recording plate work.
In this video, we'll be covering cassetteless digital radiography systems. Cassetteless digital radiography is different from CR radiography in that there is no cassette or imaging plate reader. Cassetteless digital radiography can be broken down into either direct or indirect systems. Indirect radiography can be further broken down into either thin, flat panel transistors called TFTs or charged coupled device systems called CCDs. Indirect TFT systems are composed of 3 main layers: the top scintillation layer, a middle photodiode layer, and the bottom TFT array. The top scintillation layer or light layer is where the incoming incident X-ray photons are converted into light photons. A scintillation is nothing more than a burst of light, which is why this layer is called the scintillation layer. Each photon that strikes the scintillation layer creates a small burst of light energy. Unfortunately, one downfall of using a scintillation layer is that it produces light isotropically, or in all directions. The isotropic nature of this layer thus acts to decrease spatial resolution, since the converted light photons are of a greater size than the incoming incident X-ray photons. Basically, the scintillation layer creates a small amount of blur on each image. The scintillation layer is comprised of either the ionic compound cesium iodide or the chemical element gadolinium. Cesium iodide is preferred over gadolinium since it can be formed into very small rods. These small cesium iodide rods are able to produce a smaller, more focused light beam, which in turn serves to increase spatial resolution. After the scintillation layer comes the photodiode layer. The photodiode layer is comprised of a semiconducting material known as amorphous silicon. The photodiode layer works by converting the incoming light photons from the scintillation layer into electric charge. The electric signal or electrons produced by the photodiode layer are then transferred to the thin film transistor or TFT layer. The TFT layer is comprised of an array or matrix of very small detector elements, or DELs for short. Each DEL is comprised of a capture element or pixel detector, which is the active element within each DEL. A storage capacitor, which stores the electric charge produced by the capture element in a thin film transistor or switch that acts to open and close the release of electric charge leaving each DEL, thus producing the digital image. The ability of each DEL to produce a high spatial resolution radiograph is designated by the percentage of the active pixel area within each DEL. The percentage of DEL to active pixel is known as the fill factor. There is a direct relationship between fill factor and spatial resolution in that as the active area increases, that is, takes up a greater percentage of space within the DEL, spatial resolution increases. The charge coupling device, or CCD system, is the other form of cassetteless digital radiography. CCD systems differ from the TFT systems in that with the CCD system, there is no photocathode or TFT layer. The scintillation layer within CCD systems are optically coupled to each CCD sensor chip by either lenses or fiber optics. The CCDs are able to both convert light photons into electrical signals as well as send the electrical signals to the computer for processing. The final cassetteless digital radiography system is the direct conversion radiography system, or non-scintillation system. This system is comprised of an amorphous selenium-based semiconductor and a TFT. This system works by applying a high voltage charge to the top surface nanoseconds before the X-ray exposure is made. The interaction between the incident X-ray photons and the high voltage charge causes the selenium atoms to release their electrons, which are then able to be collected and processed by the TFT layer. This final image gives a visual illustration of each type of cassetteless digital radiography system.
We saw how these layers convert the X-ray into electrical signals, and these electrical signals are sent to the detection system. Data acquisition system. So next we look into what's a data acquisition system. All right. So the current which comes out of the detector is captured by the data acquisition system. And here we saw that the current which is coming out can be amplified, and it is converted from analog to digital signal. Basically, analog to digital signal is whatever is the amount of electricity which is coming, that can be coded into binary signals, and it can be sent to a computer so that the computer can take it and process it. So that's an advantage of a digital signal. If you have only analog signal, you might not be able to process it after capturing the image. But if you have a digital signal, it's possible to process the information even after capturing the image. Now, we will look into how this happens. One second.
Hey guys, this is a short video explaining the image intensifying system, which is composed of the image intensifier tube, but you also have the X-ray generator and the TV system, which is the rate limiting step in your resolution. The image intensifier tube, for the purpose of this video, you should already be acquainted with the process of X-ray beam generation. So we start with that as a given. We have the X-ray beam that's generated, and we're emitting it towards our patient. In this case, our patient is Dr. Bouchon. Then we have the first layer of the image intensifier tube, and that's the input phosphor. It is made of cesium iodide. This generates light photons. Then the light photons will hit the photocathode. At the photocathode, we have the photoelectric effect, and this means we will convert the light photons to electrons. Remember, X-rays are still photons, so we went from an X-ray photon to a light photon, and then we converted that light photon to an electron by means of the photocathode. And this is the overview of our image intensifying tube. We have the first layer in blue here that represents the input phosphor. Then the red layer represents the photocathode. In addition to that, after we generate the electrons, we have the focusing plates. Those focusing plates are negatively charged in order to repel the electrons and guide them towards the anode. The anode will be positively charged. You also have the output phosphor at that level, and the positive charge is pretty high. It's 10 kiloelectron-volts, and the reason for this is that we want to accelerate the electrons generated through this potential and therefore gain energy. By gaining this energy, we will produce more light at the end in the output phosphor, and in the output phosphor we convert the electrons from electrons to photons. So we go back to light emission, and then this light emission will be brighter, and that's the emission that is recorded by the camera and then sent to the TV system. Therefore, by this potential, assuming we have a phosphor that's 100% efficient, which is really not the case in reality, but approximately you would be producing 10,000 electron volts and yielding 3,000 light photons. So there's a significant magnification going on here by as a result of the potential that we generate through the acceleration of electrons towards the anode. The image intensifier
So you saw what happens in the photocathode photodiode plate and how the electrical signals are accelerated from there. What you saw was of a C-arm, which is a slightly different technology. So they said that the photons are being emitted, but ultimately they'll be converted into electrical signals and they are captured in a digital image as in a CT. So once the image is captured by the data acquisition system, it is then the operator controls the process. So radiographer who has a basic understanding about what's the need for this particular CT scan tries to change certain settings. So the advantage of this is based on the quality of the image the doctor requires. The doctor has ordered for visualization of different tissues, the controls can be changed. This is called as a reconstruction algorithm. Now we have completed the first part where we have seen how X-ray is being produced, sent across the body and captured by the system. So now we will go on to the whole process of making the CT image. So first the X-ray beam is projected by the source, it passes through the body and received by the detection unit. The projector on one side and the detector lies on the other side and they rotate together in a CT scan. This projects the X-ray from all directions. So if you are lying supine, then what happens is that sometimes it will project it from the top so that your chest portion comes first, and then as it rotates you will start seeing the lateral parts and then the posterior part. So it's not seeing, but basically when it rotates, it passes the X-ray from different directions and it is being captured. Now this aspect of capturing lets us to get an image which is called as a slice. So basically computerized tomography is what we are seeing. Tomography is a combination of two words, which is tomos and graph. Tom basically means to cut or to slice. So since the X-ray source and the detector are rotating in one single direction, they are able to take images from all the different sites, and so what we get finally is a slice of image. Now there are two ways of producing the image. In the olden days, what they primarily do is they were trying to send the beam from the X-ray source, and it will complete one complete rotation. The patient will not move. Once it's completed, then they move by a small distance for the next slice, and again it will complete one rotation, and next they will move the patient by a little bit more distance, and you will have it. So this rotation to the distance which they move is called as a pitch. However, in modern day it is not done this way, but the patient continuously keeps moving through the image, and what we have is a helical structure of the image. So what happens is, on the anterior portion of the chest, say for example at thoracic fifth segment is being taken, since the patient is moving, when you go back it might not be the thoracic 5 segment, it might be the thoracic 6 segment. So the projection is given in a slanting direction rather than straight. So ultimately what we have is a helical image of the slice. Okay, so we saw about the production of the slice and the image what we are getting. Now we'll move on to viewing of the image. So when you see a CT scan, you will see different shades of gray. A scan basically consists of multiple images. Everyone would have taken a CT scan and you would have seen that. Now each single image is in turn made up of multiple pixels. A pixel is a picture element. It's a short form for that, and it's a unit space of the whole image, as you can see on the side plate. Now, based on the X-ray absorbed by the body, one pixel is assigned a shade of gray. Now, each of the pixel has different shades of gray. So, if you have taken a bone, then the shade of gray would be very light. It will be more whitish. If you have taken the other structures, the shades of gray would be different. So what we see ultimately is a combined group of pixels with various shades of gray within one single image. Now, what contributes to the image grayness? Normally in a helical CT, a slice is cut and each slice will have a particular thickness. So the radio density, what we get, is contributed by the average radio density of all the contents and the amount of X-ray that they have absorbed in the tissues. So on the side you can see a picture. So you know what's a pixel. Now when the CT goes, each slice has a specific thickness. Now if you see under a single pixel, you will see that there is a thick structure of the basic tissue. So what happens over here is the grayness is contributed by the average grayness of all the structures which are there in that particular voxels. So the total volume of contents that contributes to the image is called as a voxel, and this process of collecting the average density, radio density from multiple structures within a voxel is called as volume averaging. If a voxel has only soft tissues, the grayness will be different, but if a voxel has both a bone as well as a soft tissue, the grayness will be different. So what you're seeing is the average density of all the structures which are there in that particular voxel is what contributes to the grayness of a particular pixel you see on the image. So when you read the CT scan, the denser structures absorb more X-rays and will be white or light shade of gray, example bone, as you can see here, and the less dense structures absorb less X-ray. So for example, soft tissues you see here are slightly darker, and the air which is there in trachea, as you can see, the one which is denoted as 5 here, shows a very dark shade. So you need to understand from a CT scan, if you are seeing a lighter structure, it is thicker structure within the body or a denser structure within the body, and if you see a darker one, it means that it is a less dense structure within the body. And the image, when we are viewing the image, it goes from cephalocaudal. What it means is, it is like when you are lifting up a CT scan and you are looking into it, you are looking from the head end towards the leg end. So the slice which is cut goes from the head end to the toe end. That's how you see the image. Next, we will look into variations in image radio densities. The same CT scan which is taken can be given in different shades of gray. Now, what contributes to this is a CT system, that is the computer, can differentiate many shades of gray. It can differentiate up to 32 different shades of gray in comparison to human eye, which can only differentiate 7 shades of gray. This gives the CT operator to give us different contrast for the same image. Hence, we can, in some of the images, if we want to visualize the bone clearly, then the operator can give us an image which is of a different shade. And if we want to capture the soft tissues, then if we are not interested in looking into the bone, then you can change the image density and show us. This process is called as windowing. So you can have a bone windowing or a soft tissue windowing, and the particular structure will be more clearer in that radio densities. So what we need to understand is although CT scan is taken at one point of time, but the image clarity can be changed, and this ability comes because we have converted the analog signal to digital signals so that we can do a processing after the image is captured. This is called as post-processing. Now, the variation in radio densities, that is the shades of gray, can also be brought by contrast resolution as well as spatial resolution. What's a contrast resolution? In many of your photos and images, if you want to edit the image, you can see that you can change the contrast of it, light, or you can make it darker. So that is possible like a photograph. Also, in a spatial resolution, you are seeing if you go to a YouTube and if you see the video, you can change it from 120 pixels to 1028 pixels. So similar to that, the image quality can also be changed from 360 pixel to 720 pixel. This depends on the pixel size. So if you change the pixel size, then the spatial resolution can change. You would be asking that why don't we get a clearer picture? But there is a negative side to that. If the spatial resolution is going to increase highly, you'll be able to see only smaller structures. For larger structures, you require a larger pixel size. So you can order different image qualities depending on what structures you actually want to visualize. So that's about viewing the image of a CT. So we conclude the class on CT imaging technology. So I hope you would have understood how the X-ray, which is commonly used used in our normal X-rays, are being processed in very different ways. They are generated by different source, and they are captured, and they can be processed. The images can be processed. So if you have any doubts, you can contact me by email and ask your questions. Thank you.